Hi, Walden. Happy Pride Day. Thank you for tuning in for our Pride Day panel. I'm here with 5 students, and we are here to answer your questions about the LGBTQ plus community and address some common misconceptions. And these students have decided to be really brave coming out here and sharing their personal stories with you all. So thank you so much for listening. And I'm going to turn it over to our facilitator, Ella Beams.
Hi, everybody. So I guess we'll just get started, and let's start with everyone kind of introducing yourself, your pronouns, your grade, and how long you've been at Walden.
Okay, I'm Carl Hancock. I'm a senior at Walden. I've been at Walden for 4 years, and I'm one of the co-presidents this year, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
Hi, I'm Sam Crumple. I am also a senior at Walden. I am the other co-president of the Pride Club. I've been at Walden for 4 years, and my pronouns are they, them, theirs.
I'm Audrey. I'm a junior at Walden. I've been at Walden about 1.5 years, and my pronouns are they, them.
My name is Hudson. I've been in Walden since kindergarten. My pronouns are him and his. And yeah, I'm a sophomore.
Okay, and I'm Ella. I'm a junior, and I am representing a student who wishes to remain anonymous, but he did type up some answers for me. So here's what he said. Hi, my name is Finn, pronouns he, him, and I'm a trans boy and pansexual. I can't say my grade, but if you know, you know. Winky face. So let's get started with the first question. How do you think your identity developed over time, and when did you feel comfortable expressing your identity?
I started figuring out that I was gay in about 7th grade, and I had a teacher named Mrs. Bochelle that helped me through my journey. I came out as bi my sophomore year probably lasted for about 2 weeks. And then I was brave enough because my community was accepting and just wonderful and lovely. And that's when I came out as gay.
So basically, I I always knew I was different. In 1st grade, I was different, but 3rd grade really clicked for me that when all the boys liked the girls, I liked the boys, and I was like, ooh, that's different. So I came out as gay to my family in 7th grade, and I waited to come out at Walden until January of freshman year. But recently, actually this Christmas, last Christmas, I came out as fluid because ever since I started working at my new job, I met people who are fluid, and it opened my eyes because I never knew how I felt, but they helped me figure out who I am, and now I'm very comfortable expressing myself in that way.
I identified as a lesbian very early on in middle school, and that was up until about sophomore year. I didn't grow up with a very positive environment in my school, so it took a while. And when I came to Walden and I started meeting people who were very positive and really good for me, I figured out slowly that I wasn't comfortable identifying as a female, and I met someone I fell in love with, and I was able to comfortably recognize my identity.
Sorry. So, I've thought I was bisexual in 7th grade, and I didn't want to tell anybody. It was kind of a thing I wanted to keep to myself until I told one of my friends, and then it just went on from there. It got a little bit more comfortable. And then one of my friends brought it up on a family dinner, and my parents figured it out. And so they figured out freshman year, and I slowly told my whole family, and it kind of made me feel more comfortable in the world, especially because I go to Walden. It makes me feel like, you know, I'm not put down at all. I'm normal.
All right, and so here is what Finn said. Gosh, discovering my identity has been a long process. I always kind of knew, though. I never found interest in people just through gender, and I always had more boyish tendencies. I grew up around religion, though, and didn't know any of the labels till sometime around middle school. As soon as I saw pansexual, it instantly clicked. I still identify as pansexual and have for the last 4 years or so. My gender discovery was a lot more complicated. Living in a religious household, all of this is basically seriously taboo. I was never comfortable with my birth gender and pronouns, though I never knew what to do. The only thing I could do is to keep looking for more information. On my search through identities, I found the non-binary identity. At the time, it seemed perfect. Use they, them pronouns myself and with a very small circle of people around me. For a while, it worked. I knew I didn't like she, her pronouns, but after a few weeks, it just didn't feel right. It still felt wrong. That's when I started to realize I might be trans, which was terrifying. Because I live in a religious household, I knew I wouldn't be safe or accepted. I did eventually come to accept that, yes, I am in fact a boy. And for the last year and a half, I've felt much better. I know I'm Finn and I know that I am a boy, and I know that's how I feel comfortable. That ruined a few friendships for me, a few more, but I'm comfortable and I'm happy. It's kind of address conceptions within the LGBTQ community. So, Sam, would you like to address our first one?
Of course. The first common misconception is coming out only happens once. I'm one of those cases where I came out twice because I learned that I was not just gay, but I am fluid. So yeah, you can come out as much as you want. If you discover anything, feel free to come out. It's not, people think it's so scary, and it is scary, but once it's out, you feel so much better.
Another common misconception is that same-sex couples will always have male and female roles, and every couple is different, whether it's a gay couple or a straight couple, and no one has to follow society's rules of heteronormativity just because people expect it. They can identify and look and act however they want.
Another misconception is gay men are feminine and lesbian women are butch. You know, it's kind of like what Audrey said, everyone's different. It always just goes back to stereotypes. When a lot of people think about gay men, you're going to think of the more feminine that are going to be wearing, lipstick, more feminine clothing. And then for women, you're going to think of more like a tomboy or something like that. But it all has to go back to those stereotypes, and not every single gay man and lesbian are going to be the same.
Another misconception is that bisexual people are greedy or they can't make up their minds. And so I was actually told this by even my grandpa that it's all just a phase, and it's just that it's not greed, it's just how you feel. It's something that happens. I can't control it, but it's not greed at all. It's just life.
One more misconception is that being trans means having surgery, which isn't true. A trans person's gender is valid no matter how they look or how they decide to go about their transition. If they choose not to go through surgery or can't get surgery, they're still the gender that they identify as no matter what.
Really good. So our next question is the difference between pansexual, bisexual, polysexual, and omnisexual. This for us. What is the difference between pan, bi, omni, etc.? Good question. They're all very similar in a way, but have their differences. For some people, it is based around personal preference. Bisexual is the attraction to two or more genders. Pansexual, regardless of gender. Omni is attraction to all while still considering gender. The way I see it personally is that as pan, I'm not interested in people based on their gender, but bi or omni may have preferences for a certain gender, but are still attracted to different genders. It may be different for some people. Next question is from Miss. Why don't we learn more about LGBT history in our actual history classes, since that's part of our history? And there are many things that people don't know. So wouldn't learning about the history maybe help with some stereotypes / stigmas and such? Plus, it's just interesting in general. As a member of the community, I feel like it would honestly be really learn about the other people like me in the past.
I think that's a great question and also a great suggestion, which I'm glad to receive. In my classes, when I taught U.S. history, I've done a project on civil rights where one group researched the gay rights movement as their group's project, and then I definitely could be doing more, I think, for sure. So thank you again for the suggestion. I think when you go back earlier in history, the words that we use today and the way that people identify today, gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual, that way of thinking didn't really exist back then. In some civilizations in history, sexuality was actually a lot more fluid, and they didn't necessarily have identities like, oh, I'm gay or I'm straight. They also tended to separate marriage a lot from sexuality, and marriage was a lot more practical. So there wasn't really a concept of, well, should gay people be able to get married? Because that's just not the way marriage worked for most of history. So I think the further back you go, you'll see that the terms and the way of thinking that we have today really isn't the same, which is kind of an interesting topic to explore in and of itself. I also think this is a really important topic to address in English classes and to read more modern literature, 21st century, 20th century literature by authors who identify as LGBTQ+. So thank you for this suggestion.
And then we just have a couple more. So is it considered polite to ask a person about their pronouns or sexuality?
I think it is, just because, you know, for how many genders there are, you know, I do think that it is polite to ask people their pronouns. It just also just depends on how you go towards it, I guess you could say. You don't want to be rude, you don't want to be passive aggressive. It just really depends on how you ask. If someone was to come up to me and ask me my pronouns, I wouldn't be upset unless if they were doing it just to be, you know, rude. But I do think it is polite and acceptable.
I think, I personally think when you introduce yourself, you should ask other people's pronouns, or introduce yourself with your name and then your pronouns. So it opens up a conversation and makes them feel more comfortable to share their pronouns. That's what people do at my work, for example. When I was interviewed, I was asked my pronouns, like right off the bat. So it was a very open, very comfortable setting for people. I 100% think people should not assume, but if they do assume, use they, them pronouns, because you don't want to offend anyone by using he, him pronouns, she, her pronouns. I would just say, if you want to be safe, use they, them.
Cool. And then our last question is there an identity where you would like to be in a relationship with someone and participate in physical closeness, but not participate in any sexual activity? So Finn answered this one for us. Is there an identity where you would like to be in a relationship? Yes, there is. You would be asexual. Now, a lot of people think asexual is when you don't participate in sex or romance, so that's not true. There's asexual and then there's aromantic. Asexual is when you don't want to participate in sexual activity, while aromantic is when you don't have interest in romantic relationships. You can be aromantic, asexual, heteromantic, asexual, or biromantic, asexual, etc. You could also be aromantic, heterosexual, or aromatic, homosexual, and so on. You can be in a romantic relationship and not have interest in sexual activity. So, yeah. should we talk about whether we have any plans for Pride this summer?
So unfortunately, Big Pride downtown has been postponed to a date that we don't know yet. But we talked about possibly doing something this summer as a school, maybe having like a school picnic or something, and make it Pride theme because we aren't able to have our Pride Day in school, as you guys know. But it's all very uncertain because we don't know how the coronavirus is gonna affect, like how long it's gonna affect us. It really just depends on what we're gonna be able to do. We're hoping that maybe we can have like a little Pride Day this summer and everyone can get together and just celebrate. But it just depends. And I know we were talking about maybe doing a float for the parade, but that's also been postponed just because, like I said earlier, the parade downtown has been canceled. I mean, not canceled, postponed to a later date. So I would just keep an eye on the Kentuckiana Pride Day, and then also just keep an eye on the Walden website and Facebook, if you do have Facebook, to see if we add any events that we could possibly do.
Awesome. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Do you all have anything else to say?
I just want to say thank you so much to all of these students for being so brave and honest, and they are all really awesome, wonderful people, and if anybody has any questions for them, I think that they're all very open and willing to talk to you, so feel free to reach out to any of them, and also please give them a big thank you and a big shout out for participating. Even though a lot of our in-person events are being postponed, we still have each other, and these students are showing you that they're here for you. And Finn, who answered some of the questions, also wanted to let you all know that if you have any more questions for Finn personally, you are welcome to email him at finley147@gmail.com. So that's FINLEY 147@gmail.com. So yeah, thank you and happy Pride Day.